world appearance is said to have the absolute Brahman as its cause, in just the same way as the sky, space, is the cause of the growth of a tree. Since the sky does not obstruct its growth, it promotes or causes it. This is quite an interesting notion of the word cause, quite an interesting interpretation of the word cause, in the sense that it allows it to happen. Space allows things to grow. In the same way, you could say that silence allows sound. Silence allows music, for example. If there was no silence, there could be no sound. So in the same way, the absolute Brahman is the cause of everything. It is that which allows all things to be. In fact, Brahman is not an active causative factor, and this is revealed by inquiry. Even as one digging the solid earth finds empty space as he continues to dig, when the inquiry is continued, you will find the truth that all this is none other than the infinite consciousness. The more you look into things, the more insubstantial they become. I think this is what the physicists have found. Rama asked, "Pray tell me how this creation becomes so extensive." And in a way, what we've got next is a summary of what's been spoken of so far. Vasistha continued, "The vibration in the infinite consciousness is not different from that consciousness itself. From that vibration, just as the jiva becomes manifest, even so from the jiva the mind becomes manifest, because the jiva thinks. The mind itself entertains the notions of the 5 elements, and it transforms itself into those elements. Whatever the mind thinks of, that alone it sees. After this, one by one, the jiva acquires the sense organs, the tongue, the eyes, the nose, the sense of touch, etc. In this there is no causal connection between the mind and the senses, but there is a coincidence of the thought and of the manifestation of the sense organs. Just like a crow sits on a palm tree and accidentally the fruit drops from it, and it appears that the crow dislodged it. Thus the first cosmic jiva came into being." So that's a kind of summary of much of what's been discussed before. I'm not sure if I should comment on much of it, except to say you can take it with a pinch of salt. Rama's asking how this creation became so extensive, how come it seems to keep on going, and how come there seems to be so much of it. And there isn't really an answer to that, it's just the way it is. But Vasistha's trying to explain how the elements came to being, how the notion of an individual self came into being, how the notion of the senses come into being. And there seems to be a strict sequence of events here. And there isn't a sequence of events, it's just as it is. But he's trying to explain it so that it fits in with a basic Hindu cosmology and basic Hindu understanding. Rather than totally reject that understanding, he's trying to accommodate it and answer some very logical questions. Rama asked, "Holy Sir, if ignorance is non-existent in truth, then why should one even bother about liberation or about inquiry?" Vasistha replied, "Ram, that thought should arise in its own time, not now. Flowers bloom and fruits ripen in their due time." So this is a perfectly logical question. If there's no such thing as enlightenment and ignorance, then why bother? And Vasistha sidesteps the question, because it is a logical question. It's a question born of thinking rather than of experiencing. But it's worth considering, because sometimes you can get quite hooked up, quite caught up in this idea of getting enlightened, and so it's quite good just to not bother, actually. Keep it on the back burner. Because when you're actively pursuing enlightenment, what are you doing? You're pursuing an idea about enlightenment, which is going to take you further and further away from enlightenment. Any pursuit of ideas or notions is going to take you further away. So it is quite good just to say, well, there's no such thing, and then you might even get closer to it. So it's a good question, and one that it can benefit. It can be beneficial if you take it literally. The cosmic jiva utters Om, and by pure will creates the various objects. Just as the creator Brahma was willed into being, even so is a worm brought into being, because the latter is caught up in impurity. Its action is trivial. The distinction is illusory. In truth there is no creation, and hence no division at all. So in a way he's almost reinforcing Rama's point here. But now we've got the mention of the cosmic jiva uttering Om. And this is the first time we've had Om here in the Yoga Vasistha. And it ties in with what was said earlier in this chapter about the 4 or 5 states of consciousness, that Vedantic teaching. Within the word Om, there are 4 aspects to the word Om, and each of these relates to a different state of consciousness. Om is sometimes broken down into the A, and M, A, U, and M. It's usually transliterated as, plus the nasal sound of the final M, and each of these relates to a state of consciousness. So in a way, the cosmic jiva uttering this Om is a way of bringing these 4 states into being. And so in a way this is tying up what was said at the beginning of the chapter. And the cosmic jiva is not Brahma, it's our essential being. It's not some external entity which has created the universe. It is the consciousness which is fundamental to our being.